Welcome to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping Orange County. With your host, Don Camber.
Hello, live from the OC Talk Radio studios at UCI's Beal Applied Innovation Center. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Dawn Camber with another great guest positively impacting our community. Today, I welcome Spirit League Executive Director Melanie Smith. She oversees a special needs league where athletes with developmental disabilities thrive. Thank you, Melanie, for being on Impact OC.
Thank you, Dawn, for having me. Thank you.
Melanie, please explain how the Spirit League started and its goals.
Absolutely. Well, it all started, can you believe, 20 years ago when a mom and dad, Mike and Leslie Eccles, wanted their son Jordan to have a chance to be on a team, just like all the other kids in his neighborhood. But since he had developmental disabilities, he just struggled to keep up with the competitive nature of the local league. So Jordan parents, they gathered a few friends together. Example, if you had a neurotypically developing athlete and let's say they were in a baseball league, you would say, all right, guys, we're going to come out there. Let's play catch with your partner. But for our athletes with developmental disabilities, that is little too much just to lay on them. So we have our curriculum that we've broken down into step by step. I think the best example, let's say if I wanted to play catch with you, Dawn, and I was dealing with and working with an athlete with developmental disabilities or autism, I would say, all right, put your right arm in an L, step and throw, breaking down the fundamental actions and the mechanics of that drill into the very, very basics. So again, with our curriculum, it's built around the unique needs of athletes with developmental disabilities, and that's who we serve.
I want you to take us through what it's like for a person to become a member of your organization, because people with developmental disabilities all have different needs.
You're absolutely right. In fact, I know everyone's more familiar now with the word autism, and interestingly enough, now the CDC says that it's 1 out of 36 children in the U.S. has autism spectrum disorder. You've probably heard the term ASD before, and it just means it's an entire conglomerate of symptoms that presents itself, usually cognitive delays, speech delays, social skills challenges, and related issues. And so we're happy to talk to them and explain how we work it. And you know, when an athlete comes to us for the first time, it's a game day. I can't tell you, I think the parents are far more nervous than the athlete would. I know I would be. I have a 28-year-old son with autism. I remember those feelings when you were trying something new and you so desperately wanted your kiddo to fit in somewhere. And that's where they find that Spirit League, where they do fit in. We are non-competitive, so they can come and work on those basic skills. Let's say that your kiddo happens to be having a bad day. The sun is just shining differently and they're having a meltdown day. It's a place where they're not judged. They are not treated any differently. We can get them on the field or the court to work the entire time. And the next week, maybe it's not their kiddo, but it's someone else. So it's a place where the parents can come and their child can learn the fundamentals of the sport while still working on all the other things that team sports brings.
What's the age range?
We have 2 programs. First, our youth is ages 6 to 22. We break them up further into 3 age divisions. Division 3 is 6 to 9, Division 2 is 9 to 13, and our oldest Division 1 is 13 to 22. They play 3 sports per year: basketball, baseball, and soccer. Each is 10 weeks long, and I can talk about what a typical game day would look like in a minute. We also have a new adult program, which I've got to tell you is amazing. It's children, or I would say adults now, 18 to 32 years. And in 2024, we are expanding that into 5 sports offerings. There's start off with bowling. You might think that bowling is pretty natural. What do you need to learn about bowling? But I tell you, when you have some of these adult athletes, the very basics of learning, well, what size shoe do I wear? When I walk up and get shoes, what do I say? When I go to sit down for bowling, I can't just leave my shoes where I took them off. I have to scoot over and make room. So bowling is such a social game, and that's what we're working on with our adults. So we start off with bowling, then we head for 7 weeks straight into baseball, basketball, sand volleyball, which I've got to tell you is fun to watch, and our newest sport for our adults, flag football.
So do they get evaluated to understand where they're coming from so that when they play a sport, you know how to work with them so that they can succeed at the sport?
Good question. I'm glad you asked that. We do not have tryouts for our sports. The only qualification is that they have a developmental disability and they are ambulatory, meaning they are able to independently walk around the field or court. When a parent registers their child for a sport, we ask them a series of questions, starting off with the basics. Have they ever played team sports before? How independent are they in communicating verbally with the coach? Are they independent? Do they need prompts? Are they not able to independently verbally communicate? What is their skill on throwing a baseball? We're just asking some leading questions so we can kind of get to know this a little bit, a peek into that new child. And then the others we know from prior seasons. Since 60% of our athletes play more than one sport, we've already had experience with them. So the challenge, though, Dawn, comes when we go to sit down and put our teams together. In fact, our staff did that this past weekend. It was 3 staff members over 4 hours where you sit down with the information that the parent gives you in their registration, combined with the knowledge of what we know from that athlete if we worked with them together before, and you need to put a team together. You don't want to have a team of all experienced players and a team of all new. You don't want to have a team of those who happen to be naturally gifted at that sport, and then another team where they're just participating for the social reasons and the activity. So we spend a phenomenal amount of time trying to make sure the teams are balanced. So let's say if you have a team of 10 players for our upcoming baseball season, we may have 2 who have shown great skill at baseball. We may have another 4 or 5 who they have experience or may not have experience, but they're able to be out there and participate with some prompting. And then we may end up the team with another 2 or 3 who maybe they have a one-on-one aide out there on the field or the court with them. They might need that extra help to meaningfully participate at their ability. So our attempt to make each team balanced so when they go to play the game against each other, it's a meaningful. They're all participating at their greatest ability. And even for those athletes where they have a one-on-one out on the field or court with them to help them move with the cadence of the game and activity, we try to fade that as the season goes along. So maybe they start off with more help, but as the 10-week season progresses, we work on fading that assistance. We want them to be independent. We want our athletes to be out there playing that game and communicating with their teammates. So much about this is about the team experience. In fact, we kind of like to say that the sport is the excuse to work on everything else. And you might say, well, Melanie, you're a sports league. What do you mean the sport is the excuse?
No, sure. It brings out the social in them.
Exactly.
And they learn other things about themselves because they go out of their shell.
Exactly. Now, I've heard it said before that youth sports is kind of a rite of passage. Let's say when you do Little League, AYSO, or T-ball, it's a fun activity. You're out there getting exercise. You're learning things about working together as a team. And many athletes make lifelong friends, not only for the kids, but for the parent too. But when it comes to children with autism, they often don't have that opportunity. Our current sports systems aren't set up to handle or accommodate the unique needs of children with special needs. It's so competitive out there. I mean, goodness sakes, you're 2nd or 3rd grade, their skill level is so high. They have multiple practices during the week, competitive games on the weekends and tournaments. And many of our athletes with special needs, that's just too much. They're not able to keep up. So that's where Spirit League comes in and fills that gap. We're not just an activity or a one-time thing where you go throw a ball around. We're a genuine sports league. It's a 10-week season. So they start on week 1, learning their teammates' names. We have a little social time. It builds into a fundamental section where you're working on the sports skill. Let's say for soccer. What are things you would typically work on for soccer? You would work on a drill of ball handling, right?
About how much devoted.
Talked about where they're really learning the sports skill, breaking it into our curriculum steps. And the second half of the 90 minutes is a non-competitive game with another Spirit League team in the same age division.
Your Spirit League.
On our one location in Mission Viejo. For example, if we have 3 age divisions, the youngest of 6 to 9, we would have 4 teams typically. So the first half of that session, they're working on their fundamentals. The second half of that session, they break into playing a game with another team within their same age. Same for Division 2. They may have 4 or 6 teams depending on the sport. And our oldest one, they usually have 6 to 8 teams. So they're doing a rotation where every week they're playing a different team.
Give us some stories about some players.
Absolutely. I think one of my favorites that shows the progression is Kevin. He started 5 years ago. Basketball was his first sport. This is pre-COVID when we used to play basketball inside gyms. In fact, we would play all day Saturday and then all day Sunday again. And little Kevin, I think he was probably 8 or 7 when he started. His parents brought him into the gym, tried to get him to put a shirt on. Nope, that wasn't going to happen. Kevin hid in the entryway under the table, wouldn't even step foot in the gym. It was too much for him. The echoes of the shoes, the balls bouncing. And the advice that we gave his parents was just keep coming back. Keep bringing him back. So here comes week 2. Here comes Kevin. He's hiding underneath the table again. We have his jersey out. Wasn't quite interested. But by the end of the session, he put his shirt on. That's a huge victory. Week 3, parents bring him in one more time. Well, he started off underneath the table, but maybe halfway in, he ran into the gym, took a lap around, and went back out to the table. And we're great with that. That was a baby step. Now, this might be an extreme example, but I need to tell you where Kevin is now. On the 10th week of that season, he did come into the gym. He did get his medal. And then he went home. On the other side of summer, he came back for soccer. And I tell you, this kid, Kevin, was ready to go. Sure, he wasn't out there being a rock star on his first day, but he did put his shin guards on. Sure, they were on the outside of the sock. That's okay. They were on. It didn't matter. He was out on the field without his parents, taking direction from the coach. Maybe he was only out there 20 minutes, but he was out there. By the end of the soccer season, he was out there independently with his team, entering the field when he was supposed to, paying directions, listening to his coach, paying attention to his teammates. Now, we're on the other side of this 5 years. He's in our oldest age division, out there, completely independent. Sure, he's quiet. He doesn't say that much, but he's on his own. The parents are on the sidelines. Kevin knows that during the week I go to school, on Saturdays, I go to Spirit League. So now he has progressed from an athlete who wouldn't even go onto the gym floor. He wouldn't even touch the ball. He wouldn't talk to his teammates or take direction. It was a slow progression, but look where he is now. Completely independent, able to participate in a team sport.
And as part of being in a team sport, do they get the full uniform like other team sports?
That's part of the fun.
Explain what that's like. What it's like for
Absolutely.
them to get their jersey and put that thing on and go out and
I
play.
gotta tell you, it's very exciting, especially because we have their names on the back of their shirt, of course, which is always a bonus. Better make sure we spell it right. I completely get that. So on opening day, we have the athletes and parents come early. They get their shirt, put on their uniform, go meet their coach. And that's how it starts off. They have their uniform. They're part of a team. They know the name of their team. They do get to know their team, understanding what does it mean. Let's say I'm in the Angels of baseball. What does that mean? What does it mean that we all have the same hat on? What does team behavior mean? And so we're starting off with the basics. Let's say we have a little 6-year-old guy. He's an Angels. He's baseball. I'm thirsty. I see my mom over there in the sidelines. I'm going to go get a drink. So we're teaching them, wait a minute. Team behavior. How would you behave on a team? I need to go ask my boss. That's my coach, right? I have to go ask my boss. Hey, I'm thirsty. The coach will likely have me wait. He's going to wait till I take a drink with my team. And then I don't go to the sidelines with my parent. I'm going to be in the team benches with my team. We have the same shirt on, we have our hat on. At the end, darling, you may remember this when your kiddos were younger. For our little ones, you have that spirit bridge, we call it. The parents put their hands up together, the kids run through at the end, and we do have those athletes that are there just for the spirit bridge, I tell you. And then when they're in their two older divisions, they're working on that high five line. What does it mean to have good sportsmanship? What does it mean to have our team cheer at the end? What does it mean when we have our team pictures? Because picture day, I've got to tell you, is a very exciting highlight of the season. So our registration fee includes that personalized jersey, their team photo, their individual photo, and of course the very important medal at the end of the season.
How does it enhance their families and the community?
You've read in our mission statement, which is creating a community where athletes with developmental disabilities thrive. And you might think that that community just means the athletes, but it's so much more than the athletes. We are a no drop-off league, which means the parents need to be present for the entire session. So we're used to our youth families sitting over on the side and getting our parents to talk. When you have a special needs kiddo, your life is framed differently. You may not have the same social opportunities as your neighbors. You may not have the same vacationing opportunities as your neighbors. So when parents of special needs kiddos get to sit and talk to each other, you learn a lot. You learn, what school are you going to? What therapies, what doctors, what tutors are you working with? And then you switch into our adult athletes. Now, you might think that the parents of a 25, 26, 27-year-old athlete might not have a lot to say, but my goodness, they're talking about very different things in their community. What about driving? What about, is your kiddo going to college? What about working, living independently? And the most popular topic of our adult athlete parents, romantic relationships, of course.
Where do they play?
We primarily play in Mission Viejo. Our youth sports are all there, basketball, baseball, and soccer. And our adult sports, 4 out of our 5 are also in Mission Viejo. In fact, the city has something called the SNAP initiative, Special Needs Accessible Programming, where they purposefully plan accessible programming for families with special needs, whether they're youth or adult. Fortunately, Spirit League is part of that community. So Mission Viejo provides fields for our athletes, provides some storage, and they're very welcoming in that way. In fact, when the city, working with their Chamber of Commerce, there's something called an OSO Fit Walk every February. They even go so far as to give a special needs room, a low sensory room for those athletes or runners that are there for the run or walk, have a safe place to be.
How are you funded?
Good question. We are a nonprofit, 501c3. We have almost half of our income comes from registration fees that I mentioned to you before. The rest of our income comes from community support, primarily foundation grants, individual and community donors.
How can people help?
That's another very good question. We are a sports league. We're just like you would understand AYSO or Little League or many of the other phenomenal sports programs out there. We rely on our community and volunteer coaches. And when you're dealing with special needs athletes and coaching them, you might think, oh, I have no experience in that. I don't know what to do. I'd say almost half of our coaches don't have a child in the program. Maybe they've coached their children when they were younger. Maybe they just have an affection for, let's say, baseball, and they want to get out there and learn. So they connect with Spirit League, and the rest will come. So we are looking for more volunteers, specifically coaches for our game days, or what we call team mentors. Team mentors are a step lower than the coach. They're just there to assist the coach, assist the athletes on game days. And the good news is Spirit League provides everything you would need for that. I mentioned earlier that we have developed a curriculum set up for the unique needs of athletes with special needs. So let's say you're going into week 3 of soccer and the coach is out there leading the sports fundamentals part. Well, good thing Spirit League provided the curriculum for week 3 of soccer. Exactly what you're supposed to do. We provide online Spirit League training and, of course, a background check. So we have an entire process that a volunteer might go through. They would go to spiritleague.org, read about the volunteer opportunities, and those include coaching and the team mentoring and other opportunities. The commitment is a 10-week season, 90 minutes each Saturday morning. Another thing that we're looking for assistance for our community, of course, is support. I mentioned to you that we charge a registration fee to cover a portion of our costs of each athlete. But that registration fee is less than 50% of the actual cost for our athlete. So we have to make up the difference. Currently, we charge $245 per athlete for one season, but our actual cost is $560. So we find that difference so every athlete is able to play. We also have a strong scholarship program. Our leadership is committed to providing financial assistance to up to 15% of all registered athletes for every season, and we meet that 15%. We do not turn families away for inability to pay. It's an honor system, and usually it takes the fee down to $50 or even less than that.
Well, thank you, Spirit League Executive Director Melanie Smith, for being on Impact OC. And I thank everyone for tuning in. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Dawn Camber. Have an impactful day.
You've been listening to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping our community. Right here on Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio.